All right, everybody. So this is going to be the video to swap out your line release. And whether or not you have a scuba gun or a rear handle, it's all going to be the same. There's a few minute differences. Like this is obviously going to be in the way a little bit for when you try to tap the screws out or the pins out. But what you have, what your package is this little bushing, this screw, and the line release. You're going to need a 2mm Allen wrench, a 3/16 punch or smaller, and a 1/8 punch for the pins if your mech ends up needing it. Now there's two different mech bodies, and if you have an older one, the pins are going to have to be knocked out. If you have a newer one, they fall out. They're very tight tolerance, but they are removable without having to knock them out with a punch. So you'll also need a little bit of Loctite. I use non-permanent, and yeah, there'll be a few other little differences. So what you're going to end up doing, take your shaft out and your line, just move it out of the way. And it's okay if you have another person. If you have a reel, it's easier to do it with the reel out, but if you want to leave the reel in, you just put it on the edge of a table and tap it out, which would be like that. And if you have somebody to hold the end of the gun so it doesn't fall off, that's also good. But so yeah, you will take your hammer and your punch, the larger punch, and knock your pins out. At that point, what you're going to end up with is this. Plus, it'll have a line release coming off the end, but this is a new body. So what you're going to end up doing is knocking your pins out. Now, do not lose these pins. And before I move on, depending on which SEER unit, you got two generations of SEER units. This one, which is the newer, the only difference is this one has the edge cut off here, and this one, you'll see right there, if you've got the older style, the first gen, which is nothing wrong with it, pop the pin out to show you, it has this rounded edge. And what that does is, as you can see, when you put everything together, it'll be in this window. Whenever you go to put it back, you need to push this into place, like latch it as if there was a shaft there, because otherwise the SEER unit sits right here, and as you try to put the pin on there, you'll just be hitting that SEER, and it won't go through, and it'll just bang up your SEER unit. So 2 smaller pins, 1 6mm pin, and 2 3mm, or 4, sorry, 2 4mm. And what you end up with, when you take everything apart, minus your line release, because I don't have it there, you can take your old line release, the blue ones, take them and throw them right in the garbage, and the screw. We're not reusing either one of those. So what you end up with is your SEER unit, whether or not it's first or second gen. You can see the differences there. The only difference is this piece right here. The newer gen, it doesn't fall into that window at all. So you have your spring, your trigger, your SEER, 2 pins, and a single pin. So then what you would end up doing, take your line release and put it into your mech. And then you'll take this screw, the new one, make sure it's the new one, put your bushing on it. And take your 2mm Allen wrench and stick it through and find the hole and twist it on. So what you're going to want to have is just a couple threads down. You don't want to tighten it up all the way. Couple threads down, not all the way loose. So what happens is when you put your Loctite in, if you have it too loose, it'll drain through the threads and end up in between your housing and your line release, and that'll get locked up, and it'll be hard and tight and won't be good. So what you end up doing is you'll leave just a couple threads on the end, and then you'll take your Loctite, make sure you shake it very well, otherwise it won't mix and it will not cure for you. So you put your little bit of Loctite on there, then you tighten it all the way till it's snug, wipe it off with a paper towel or whatever, and then you'll loosen it just a teeny bit until you get the desired tension you want. You don't want it flopping all around super loose, but you want it just enough to where it moves freely back and forth. And let that cure in place. Just remove it. At that point, don't move your line release at all, because you can loosen and tighten it a little bit. And what you end up with is this. It works nice and neat. So assembly. mouth forward. What you're going to end up doing, take your spring, and you see the spring like that, pop it on top to bottom on your sear unit like this. So shaft facing that way, sear unit facing that way, facing up, just like this. And then you'll take your line or your trigger, put it just like that. And what you'll do is you'll just slide it into place till the holes match up on your trigger first. I've found trigger works a little easier. I'm doing this behind a big camera ring and everything, so if you'll bear with me. So you put it just like that, put your pin in, one of the two smaller pins, and then you'll put your release back, and then you'll move this till you get the second pin in place, just like that, and then you pull the trigger back a little bit and feed this larger pin through. Remember, do not lose these pins. Just like that. So when you go, if you go play around with your mech, and it's sideways, and you've got the older or the new mech where the pins will fall out, they will slide back and forth on their own. So again, try to make sure that you just keep it upright and all under tension. So at this point, if you've got the new style sear and you see that it doesn't, you know, the sear unit isn't through that hole, go ahead and feed it right back into your spear gun. And then once you align everything, you'll take those two pins. They're going to be these. You'll take those pins and tap it back through just like that, back into place inside your spear gun. And then once you get them even on both sides, you're good to go. If you have the new sear, again, make sure, and I should have used this one honestly to show this, but you see it's not engaged yet. You know, you can work the line release. Come from the bottom with anything and just push up on it. And this will lock into place. And this will lock into place and your sear will be up out of the way. At that point, you can go in and tap it all back in. But yeah, do not try to tap these pins through when the sear unit, if your older style first gen sear unit is stuck in that window. That would not be good. Anyway, best of luck everybody. Once you get that good to go, then like I say, just make sure your line release and everything works well. And honestly, in this one, it doesn't actually lock into place. So that's actually a good thing to test prior. Make sure that it easily pops into place, which it should. I don't know, that one didn't. Very odd. But anyway, yeah, just make sure it pops into place before you put it all back together. Make sure that comes up nice and easy, and you should just have a teeny bit of play in that. But anyway, yeah, that is how it's supposed to look when locked into place. So I need to just shave a teeny bit off the front of this line release for this one to work properly. Pretty easy to do. Anyway, so yeah, if you have any questions whatsoever, do reach out and let me know. Good luck, everybody.